Hello and welcome to the Monday Night Live show, where together we can discover what's going down around the underground scene with a focus on independent publishing. That's right. The date is November 6th, 2023, and this show is brought to you by yours truly, the man broadcasting from behind the curtain. You know who I am. Because if you don't know by now, you can always visit www.livefreeliverich.com or simply Google this name and you can find out. Now, I'd like to take this time, slide right inside my first segment of the night, where I like to shine a spotlight on some books. That's right. That are currently available or coming soon to an online store near you. Yes, it's true. Let's see who's up first tonight. We have from Shiv Saywack, The Mary Finch Mysteries. Let's see what we have here. We are starting off with Mary Finch and the Gray Lady by S.S. Saywack. Let's see that cover. There it is. And now, let's check out the blurb. The avenging spirit of a priestess to an Egyptian queen, the Gray Lady, has murdered 5 people and now has her sights set on Mary Finch's employer. How do you kill a spirit set on revenge? A clairvoyant may have the answer, but the ghost she raises expose a dreadful secret that has lay hidden for over 30 years. When her young friend, Fortune Dubois, goes missing, Mary finds herself on the violent and gritty streets of Victorian London, chasing a spirit and hunted by the living. Mary Finch and the Gray Lady is the second in the Mary Finch mystery series. Mary Finch and the Thief is the first book in the series. This is 266 pages of teen and young adult European historical fiction, teen and young adult thrillers, and suspense. All right. See what we have up next here. From Pauline Verhoeff, shares a link to her book, entitled How Many Frogs Does It Take by Pauline Verhoeff. How many frogs? Those goddamn frogs. All right. There you are. The old and modern woman? Are you a sweet old granny who knits scarves and mittens for her grandkids? Or are you a modern granny who is either a marathon runner or a tennis player and that is trying to find a new love? Love or casual hot sex? Do you want a knitting or a golf buddy? That's kind of a random question at the end there. Understand your priorities before dating and know your goals and ethics. Whether you want to put up a lot of issues or not is entirely up to you. But remember, you don't want to end up with a vegan, nor a smoker, nor a drinker, or worse, neither a drug addict, unless you abuse those substances yourself. In that case, have a blast. So may I recommend taking a jerk-o-meter when you date? I will give you some clues from my latest book, How Many Frogs Does It Take? From some of the stories were experienced by my friends or myself. 264 pages. No category on this one, but it kind of sounds like maybe part memoir, part kind of self-help for all you ladies in your golden age or golden years who are looking to get back into the dating scene. Very interesting. Seven frogs, to be exact. You know, I think I would push back on that a little bit. I think it varies from lady to lady, you know? And for some ladies, perhaps it's just not in the cards, you know? But hey, who am I to say? Moving right along. Who do we got up next here? From Robert Van Dusen. Says a young police officer. Oh, what is this? What is going on here? Speaking of which, speaking of ladies, looks like we have perhaps a damsel in distress here. What do we have? What is this? This is The Night Shift by Robert Van Dusen. This cover has piqued my interest, at the very least. All right. This, here we go. Here's the blurb. Deputy County Sheriff Molly Cooper works nights patrolling the highways and back roads around the small town of Mason Creek after an unspeakable crime shatters the peace of the sleepy little burg. She discovers that she isn't the only thing that going bump in the night. That goes bump in the night. Yes. I was going to say, who is this lady? Is she a cop? She's a sheriff, but imagine speaking of cops, it does look as though this character is trying to cop a feel on this cover here. But I do like the artwork, though. That's pretty, it is pretty eye-catching artwork. It is pretty eye-catching artwork. An unspeakable crime. Well, those are the books for this week, ladies and gentlemen. And you know the deal. You're watching this on the replay. You can head on over to my community tab and cast your vote for which one out of those 3 books you thought had the most text appeal. In other words, which one out of those 3 aforementioned titles would you be most likely to pick? And if you would like to discover more from the independent market, you can head on over to my shorts tab or my playlist tab and open yourself up some mystery packs. Inside each mystery pack, there's a cover card that reveals a book that was recognized by the Live Free, Live Rich network from the independent market. And inside the description section of each video, there's a link to an editorial written specifically on that book by yours truly. So how you doing tonight, Thomas? I didn't ask you. And we also have Herman in the house. Herman, you are going to be the man of the hour tonight. I have you on Hot Topic. But you're on a live stream. That's fun. Are you talking about your book, or are you just shooting the shit? Let's get into some announcements. This past week, I finished up, speaking of mystery packs, I have a new one to reveal. Finished up posting a new editorial on my website. So we have a new mystery pack. A new mystery pack reveals Everfrost, the LFLR indie breakdown of Everfrost by Lou Yardley. Lou Yardley. Some of you may have been following the show for quite some time. Early, like last year. It was pretty early when I first started doing this. I came across someone who in the Authortube sphere by the name of Lou Yardley. I don't know if she's still making content. I am still sub to her channel, but I don't think she's been making content. It's been some time since she's made some content. But anyways, I ended up getting some books from her, and this is one of them. It's a part of a dark fantasy series. So I will be leaving a link to the breakdown of that particular book that I read of hers in the show notes down below. And it is always fun. I always feel like a little sense of accomplishment every time I finish a new indie book. Because not only is it another, indie author that I get to, kind of add to the list of indie authors that I've read before, but I also, being a mood reader, I also get, another opportunity to visit that good old TBR list, the to be read list that always seems to be growing. And just a little FYI, if I've ever said that I've added books to my TBR list, I actually do not read them in any kind of chronological order, based on when I've added them to the list. For me, really, it's the whole fun of it is being a mood reader. What I mean by that is not only when I'm in the mood to read something, but also what am I in the mood to read in terms of genre or category or anything like that. So it's kind of fun when I finish a book, because I don't just read books just to get through them and that's it. When I'm reading, especially indie books, I want to make sure I give each and every single indie book that I read a fair shake in terms I want to read the book from cover to cover. I want to actually think about the material and then sit down and write out a comprehensive review on that particular title. whether and share my personal experience, whether it be an overall positive or negative experience. I try to make it entertaining and perhaps a bit constructive as well. But I try to give, but the point of the matter is every indie book that I read, I try to just give it a fair shake. And if it's not for me, it's not for me. But regardless, I'm still going to give it the same amount of effort that I would any other title, whether it be, a trad pub or what have you. But in fact, I actually give more effort, time, attention, and effort into the indie books that I read than I do the trad pub, because my philosophy is, why am I going to spend all my time, spend a bunch of time reviewing a trad pub title other than to just share? Like, I could see sharing my opinion about it, but spending a bunch of time doing like full analysis or breakdown editorials for trad pub books or classics that literally everyone and their grandmother has reviewed seems, doesn't really seem like a good use of my time. Whereas I feel like I'm kind of being a trailblazer when I read indie books that otherwise people have never even heard of before. And I get to be one of the first individuals to share their insights and opinions on that book. For me, that's fun. And for me, that's kind of an exciting thing to think about. That's where I come from with it. Oh, editing. There you go. You editing that first novel from the Maven Wars? Hey, read out. What's going on, man? Says popping in briefly to say hi, John, and to buy Herman's book. Yes, buy my book. Herman, I kid. It's because it's a kind of an inside joke thing. Herman, buy my book, Hunter. Yeah, the Everfrost, the cover to Everfrost is what was kind of a draw for me, because I will say, in fact, I could bring it up again here. So it was a draw for me for this cover, like the way that it looked, obviously. But I'm just saying, this is actually book 2 of a series she called the Venari series. So it's a bunch. But what I think was cool on her part, she was kind of creating her Venari series. It's like dark fantasy, kind of whimsical, fantastical type creatures. It's not just werewolves, but there's also like creatures like goblins, fairies, more like what I would consider like fairy tale or whimsical type of world to it. But it's dark in the sense that it's violent, graphic violent in fact. But what's cool is that she's making it so like every story in this series can kind of be you can read it as a standalone. But if you read them in chronological order, then you can kind of pick up on some Easter eggs. So I actually decided to start with book 2. So that Everfrost is actually book 2 in that series, because I was kind of contemplating, do I start with book 1? Screw it. And the reason why I start with book 2 is because I wanted to kind of test that theory that she put forth, saying that you could read them in any order. And yeah, and I will attest that it does come across as a complete story in it and of itself. But I could also tell that there were certain parts in that novel that kind of alluded to events that happened in book one. But, you know, it doesn't really come across as though I had to have read book one in order to understand what transpired, which I thought was pretty cool. But it's just a different way of doing things. Perhaps. I still actually have your I still actually have your book She on my TBR list. But yeah, I will say that the your fantasy series sounds like it would be more up my alley. What is my preferred genre? You asking me? I'll assume you're asking me, or just asking in general, but I'll answer the question. My preferred genre. I think from based on what I've read so far, you would probably think that it's either like horror or thriller type books. But I don't know. Like I want to like it's weird because it's like it's what I want to read, but it's like what I want to read is not what is available out there. And what I would like to read is more like gritty westerns or something like that. Maybe I just haven't gone looking hard enough for them. And I'm talking about like indie now. I'm talking about like indie. Like I would be interested in reading more like gritty westerns written by indie authors. But I have been reading, like I have read Cormac McCarthy, Blood Meridian. I did read that one this year. So you could, that would definitely fall under the umbrella of gritty westerns. Probably more like graphic western, but in terms of indie, yeah, I don't see a whole hell of a lot of indie authors writing gritty westerns. So I would like to read more of that, but it's just not available. There is that series of like splatter westerns, they're called, which I was thinking about. I do have one of those sitting on my TBR list right now, which might be one of the next books that I get to once I'm ready to read another one. However, I'm really not too picky. I will say that I do struggle with fantasy to some degree. It depends how many layers of fantasy, you know what I mean? When it's like really deep fantasy where like everything is lore, building upon lore, and it's all like made up. It's all really fantastical and not really, or not fantastical, but whimsical, I guess is a better word to say. Like I don't really do too well when it comes to whimsy. When things are like really whimsical, you know, Jabberwockies or, you know, stuff like that, where it's like all these like whimsical, imaginary type stuff that's really it's not rooted in reality at all. I'm more of I guess you could say like more of a magical realism type of guy. Or if there is magic, the magic itself has some system to it, you know. Doesn't necessarily have to be systematic, but it has some like rationale behind it. But yeah, other than that, and romance, not big on I can't say that I've read a lot of romance. I'm not very well read when it comes to the romance genre. But I'm willing to give variety. I'm willing to read a variety of novels. I'm not like, oh, I'm only going to read this or I'm only going to read that. Like, I'll give it a shot. But, you know, the impression that it gives on me is going to, obviously, is going to vary from one genre to the next. And a lot of it, I also don't want to come across as like an ignorant reader either, which is why I try. And when I say I try, that means I put in the effort to read a variety, whether it be genre, literary, fiction, nonfiction. I try to read a variety. Hey, Sean, welcome. Sean says, I fulfilled a dream Saturday and got my first parrot. Well, a conure. So it's sized between a parakeet and a parrot. There you go. I know you like birds. You hear birds in the background of your videos. Romance and erotica. I've read some subgenres of erotica, I suppose. Not necessarily on purpose, though. It was supposed to be erotic horror. Erotic horror. But it was pretty explicit. Say that much. All right. Here's now for those of you who are looking, if you want to make your own discoveries, I'm trying to make it so it's easier for creators, artists, authors, those of you who, maybe you're looking for other people to network with, or you're just a supporter of the indie scene in general and looking to discover other artists and creators out there. You can check out these networks that I created. Being a proactive supporter of independently created arts and entertainment means keeping a finger on the pulse of what's happening around the indie scene. But unfortunately, when it comes to underground activity, it's not always so easy for individual artists to be seen. So if you're tired of feeling as though you are stuck in the shadows, then I welcome you to keep me on the up and up with whatever it is you're working on, or feel free to share something that you've already made with the rest of the network on one of our 2 group servers. This is an open invitation to artists and supporters alike who simply want to focus on appreciating independently created arts and entertainment. I created both the Guilded and the Discord server as open forums, where not only are you encouraged to share your projects, but also to foster a pro-networking environment in which both creators and fans can discover one another and make connections without worrying about being in violation of some stupid rule. Cheers. Yes, consider us the outsiders, because I cannot stand, there's one thing I can't stand, and that's stupid rules. What's the point? I've been a part of all sorts of groups, especially on Facebook. Facebook is like notorious for horrible, I don't know why. Maybe it's because Facebook is mostly just inhabited by a bunch of boomers at this point. No offense to my boomers in my audience. But, it's just for whatever reason, like all the book groups and authors groups on Facebook always tend to have a bunch of stupid rules that make it very, very, very difficult to like actually interact with other people who are part of those groups, other than in the way in which the moderators of those groups would like you to interact. In other words, they set the parameters by which you are allowed to interact. And I can't stand that crap. Like, obviously, there's certain limits. I just assume that everybody's adults and you can conduct yourselves accordingly. You know what I mean? I'm not there to be anyone's parent or police. individuals. So I'm just like, hey, man, like these are some groups that I started literally just for the sake of networking, literally just for people to, if they want to join it, you can join it. You want to engage in small talk, have all the small talk you want, but there's no requirements. You're not required to check in with me. You're not required to, you're not required to, participate in any, random event that may be going on within the group, or else you get banned or kicked from the group or anything like that. No, it's like you just join, and if literally you just end up sitting idle in the group, then so be it. But if you check in now and then, the group will be there. In other words, I want the groups to be there when you want them to be, when they need to be for you, as whether it be as a resource, as an artist or a creator, and you can go in there, and when you have something new to share, you have some place to go and you can share those things freely without having to worry about, well, what time is it? What time of the day is it? What day of the week is it? Is it share your work Monday? Is it share your work Sunday? Is it, nothing dumb like that. Just go in there. If you have something to share, share it. There's a channel for that. I set up all kinds of different channels in these groups, so you can do it whenever it's clever. All right. And if you want to stay on the up and up with what it is that I have going on with the entire Live Free, Live Rich brand, you can head on over to my website, livefreeliverich.com. Right on the homepage, just share your email, and you sign up for my newsletter, where I send out one newsletter every week, every Saturday, that will provide you with all the pertinent links from the previous week. Yes. Yeah, there you go. Get some hot topic. Sean says, I want to do more controversial Booktube videos. I've been dragging my heels on doing a video about free speech, censorship, and J.K. Rowling. Yeah, a lot of J.K. Rowling has kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I really just know J.K. Rowling as that author that wrote Harry Potter. That's all. That's all I know about J.K. Rowling. I know J.K. Rowling. I recognize Rowling as that author who wrote Harry Potter. And to be honest with you, I haven't even read the Harry Potter books. Maybe sometime at some point I might read the Harry Potter books. Maybe. There's a lot. I got a lot of books on my bucket list that I would have to get to before I would consider reading the Harry Potter series. I'll just take people's word for it that, they had fun with it or whatever. It just doesn't appeal to me necessarily. I did watch the movies, and the movies were okay. They're a fun kind of general audience kind of movies. They tend to get a little bit, but I did notice that they did start to get a little bit darker as the series went along, though. So Harry Potter is kind of like, I would say Harry Potter is kind of would fall into that YA kind of category, I guess, because in the sense that what I've talked about, like what kind of defines YA as a category. And it's like, it's a type of book series that's written for a specific age group with the intention of that particular age group growing up or coming of age, because that's like a typical trope for YA books. But that specific age group, that target audience for that series, to literally grow up side by side alongside the main characters of that series. So I think that if we're kind of talking about YA, or if someone was to ask me like what I believe YA, what makes a series a YA series, that's what I would say. That's what I would say, because I would say the beginning books, it's any series where like it's the target demographic is around the same age as the main characters, and the series is meant to be for a target demographic that can grow up alongside those characters. So kind of like, you know, it's kind of like as if, which I think is pretty smart, you know, on a marketing end, as far as, you know, being if it's like a right to market type of series, because your target audience grows up alongside the characters. So it's kind of like you're kind of the characters and the readers are kind of coming of age together, which, you know, I think is a pretty cool concept. Hey, brother Asa, John, is this that's not D.A. Bell, is it? Rainer's in the house. What's up, Rainer? Now, Thomas. See, Sean says, now Sean weighs in. He says, I read Harry Potter as like a 28, 30-year-old and loved it. But yeah, YA is targeted at younger readers like 11 to 18. Yeah. Hey, I thought so. Look at that. You're always finishing dinner. Yeah, this is your dinner time. Anything fun on the menu? All right, guys. I got one more since I got all you here. Might as well plug my opportunity for those of you who are involved in the writing community. The Storytellers Society, still accepting open submissions. This is a public collaborative project, kind of basically an outreach program, really, for my peers in the writing community. What I'm looking for is flash fiction for this project. Flash fiction for this project is fiction that is between 500 all the way up to 2,000 words. This can be fiction that you actually have published somewhere else, so long as you own the copyright and you have the right to give me permission to republish it on my blog, where it will be free for public viewing from now and indefinitely. Just because you submit something doesn't mean that your work will automatically be published. It does need to be approved, but if approved, then you'll effectively book yourself a room at what I've dubbed the Hotel del SS, where all the members of the Storytellers Society stay. Yes, links for both the Storytellers Society and the open invitations to both the Discord and the Gilded servers, always in the show notes down below, you guys. All right, let's keep things moving right along, and we're going to get into will be the final segment before we wrap things up tonight, and that is hot topic for content creators. Let me get some things ready here. Yeah. All right, let's get into it. Hot topic for content creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you guys, and then you guys turn around, if you feel so inclined, create your own content on said topic. Or you're always welcome to join the conversation by dropping your comments down below and or checking out any of my previously pitched hot topic videos, in which can be watched in any order. Okay. I don't always remember to say that part. The hot topic of tonight's discussion is indie author folly. Okay. That is the hot topic that has prompted tonight's subject. Okay. Indie author folly is where we discuss the business practices, marketing strategies, and public relations of the indie scene that have made us cringe. I like to use this hot topic not as a means of dunking on the competition, but as a learning experience that anyone within the scene can benefit from. So I ask that if you are contributing to this conversation, then please refrain from naming names and just focus on calling out the behaviors that you take issue with, so that everyone has an equal chance to do better and nobody gets singled out in this regard. One thing I've noticed, especially on the internet, is that when individuals are painted into a corner or have their back against the wall, the odds of them altering their behavior is slim to none. More often than not, those individuals will end up doubling down on their behavior. And to take it a step further, it may even create unnecessary drama. So if you are someone who is constantly calling individuals out by name, then I, for one, question whether or not you actually care about that individual doing better, or if you are really just a drama queen who's in search of a fucking problem. And all I have to say to that is be careful what you wish for. Now, tonight, I'd like to highlight a comment from Herman P. Hunter, the Lore Forge. That's his YouTube channel. He is an indie author whose work I've featured several times on the show before, and I even had the privilege of doing an interview during one of those shows. So let's see what Herman has to say on this hot topic. Now, this comment of his is coming from Indie Author Folly Part 10, in which I was talking about desperate self-published authors who specifically send booktubers an unsolicited copy of their novel in a blatant attempt to gain some easy, sleazy booktube publicity. So Herman writes, I kind of take issue with the term desperation. There are few places that will do promotion or reviews for no-name authors. Most authors don't have the money to spend on advertising. Most don't have the money to spend on editing. Computer's slowing down, so I just want to make sure the lag is caught up here. Without sufficient funds to strong-arm sales, how else are they to get their name out? Yes. How indeed. If only there was someone who was willing to share their precious time in an effort to shed some light upon what would otherwise be recognized as nothing more than obscurities, if at all, but not because they have some ulterior motive, such as building up a YouTube channel for the sake of generating themselves a profit and or accumulating free shit from strangers, but because they actually possess a genuine interest for the underground. Look, if you just so happen to come across such an individual, then please, by all means, let me know. Because to me, it seems as though authenticity has become something of a dying breed. But I digress. Herman goes on to say, and those small creators that do sometimes show up and offer some exposure, sometimes they dork you. In fact, with The Revenant and The Tomb, I had at least 3 different people offer to provide exposure through their channel, only to have that offer vanish like a fart in the wind. One eventually made good. The other 2, well, when I asked what happened, they essentially blew me off. So now those 2 are on a permanent excrement list. Is that figuratively speaking? Because that would actually be pretty friggin' hilarious if you're if you have an actual shit list. I would like to know. And I doubt I'm the only one who has had that sort of experience. One thing that I can say about that, though, I mean, there are tons of people who, I guess in the Booktube, Authortube sphere, that kind of write checks their asses can't cash. But, at the end of the day, really, what is this but a hobby, for a lot of people? So, for some people, I would say, you be very careful. I would kind of almost, in a way, kind of sympathize with those on the Booktube side and say, guys, like, be very careful when it comes to what you say you're willing to do and this and that, and have kind of like almost like a business mindset about it. I think both people should have kind of a business mindset about it at the end of the day. Like I'd say, like, I used to be pretty harsh about when it came to like authors who send out freebies to booktubers for that publicity. But like, hey, if it's between 2 consenting adults and you're reaching out to them ahead of time and it's like a genuine thing where it's like, this is a booktuber that you actually like respect, or, and have, maybe you've watched their content for a while and you know what they're about and you already have some sort of idea of whether or not they would be interested in your book. Yeah, I mean, I could see that, and you reaching out to them and, ahead of time and being like, hey, is this something that you'd be interested in? And then it's kind of like, it's right there in black and white as to like, what each side can kind of expect from one another. You know what I mean? As far as that goes. Which is why I always try to make it a habit, this is a business practice. I always try to make a habit of under promising and over delivering as far as that goes. If there's anything to be delivered when it comes to that sort of thing, because you never really know either too. Like, something could have came up in their personal life. Maybe they just weren't taking the YouTube thing seriously, or maybe they were just like a shill in sheep's clothing who was really just using the indie scene as a means to like, build their YouTube channel so that they can profit off of things like, super chats or paid memberships or whatever. And they couldn't care fucking less about, indie books or anything like that, because those channels do exist. I would argue that those channels certainly exist. People who will talk about, indie books and stuff like that, literally just for clout, specific indie books. Like you'll see when there's content creators out there, like the only time they'll ever talk about indie books is when it's an indie book that has notoriety surrounding it. It's never like, hey guys, check out this cool book that I myself discovered from the indie scene. No, it's like, hey guys, that book that's been that's been hot on Book Talk for a while? Yeah, I read that book, so you don't have to. And this is my review of that book. Those type of videos. Like if that's all they ever do, I would definitely question their sincerity. So Herman says, should the author in question have done what they did? Oh, now he's mentioning, he's talking about when I was commenting about the author who was soliciting the free publicity. Should the author in question have done what they did? Probably not. Was it cringe-inducing? Sorta. But they had the cojones to take a chance. Yeah, but again, I'd say, even if you're going to like take a chance on a booktuber, I would say at the very least, like, because they ended up making a fool of themselves, at least in my eyes. They ended up making a fool of themselves because the booktuber, one thing I would say, if you're writing any email or letter to a content creator, then I would expect that content creator to read that email or letter publicly, as part of their content. In other words, don't make it like, try to make it kind of a sentimental thing unless you want to, but nothing that would like, you would want it to like kind of remain private, type of deal where it's just like, it's just meant to be like, in other words, don't go. The worst thing that you could do, one of the biggest follies, I think, is to confide in strangers on the internet. Do not confide in strangers that you meet online. Okay. And that goes for me too. Like, don't be sending me a bunch of your like personal stuff. Now, I will tell you right now that I do have a respect for people's privacy, and I do understand the value of being discreet when it comes to respecting people's privacy. And there is a certain value to being discreet because it builds up a certain trust. So if you see these, because it's sad, it's a sad state of affairs in this day and age. I got to kind of go off on tangent a little bit right now. It is a kind of a sad state of affairs, social affairs in this day and age on social media. When you see a lot of these content creators out here who without even thinking twice, they're willing to put each other on blast by revealing like direct messages. They don't even think twice about putting people on blast, revealing intimate direct message conversations that they've had with other people online. And I can't stand that shit. Like when I see people doing that, even if they're putting somebody else on blast for the things that they've said in a conversation, just let it be known that if you are somebody who reveals direct messages, in other words, messages that were sent to you personally, and I kind of consider that to be for your eyes only type of messages. If I receive a direct message from someone, I assume that is somebody who is confiding in me to a certain degree, regardless if it's a really personal thing that they're sharing with me, or if it's just something kind of like inconsequential. You know what I mean? It's just like a everyday thing, like, oh, this is what I had for breakfast. You know what I mean? Not that I typically engage in those kind of conversations online, but I'm just saying, you know. So I don't really, to be honest, I gotta just put it out there that like I really don't think too highly of people who are capable of just revealing direct message conversations with the public, with their audiences online. Also, as if they have some kind of like personal relationship with their audience, when in all actuality, an audience is just a group of individuals who 9 times out of 10 are just strangers to you. Like you don't know these people. And you also don't know why these people may be watching you as well. You know, you would like to think the best of people's intentions, but it's not always the case when we're talking about the internet, right? You know, you got to take things with a grain of salt, be smart about things, and be professional. You know, that's the point really that I feel like I was trying to make with that whole thing. Let me wrap up his comment here. He says, for my part, and that's not to, and by the way, that's not to you specifically, Herman, but just these are things that I've kind of like, you know, I've witnessed, you know, since being involved in the indie scene and, you know, coming across various different groups and individuals who engage in this creative sphere on YouTube. He says, for my part, I've stopped watching and following big YouTube reviewers. All they really provide is the same basic content about the same static list of authors. I've stopped giving my time over to rage tubers, given that I'm spending all of my time promoting my works. I really don't have the time to waste on people who would never give me a second look. Yeah. And I would toss in the people who really their main concern is building their YouTube channel, you know, like, and anyways, instead, I'm focusing on interacting with potential readers and fans directly by engaging in chats, discords, conventions, and shows where I can promote and sell my books direct. I'm engaging with smaller people who do provide me exposure. That strategy is yielding far better results faster than chasing after well-known YouTube content creators, most of whom wouldn't give me the time of day. Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably multiple sides to that as well. In other words, like how, you know, maybe once their channel reaches a certain amount of views, clicks, and all that stuff, like it becomes more of like a, I don't know, a business to them or a career in that sense, where it's like maybe they've kind of like, for me, that's almost like, I almost dread that, to be honest. Because I've said way in the beginning, when I first started doing this thing, the whole reason why I do this show is for the engagement. Like, I want to connect with people who are proactively involved with the indie scene, you know, or at the very least, maybe try to encourage other people to become involved in the indie scene, because I am an indie author myself and being involved. And I also read indie books. So being somebody who is proactive in the scene, really just trying to encourage and inspire that sense of, dare I say, community. You know, I'm not doing this because my aim is to build my YouTube channel, you know, which to me, I've always felt was kind of a lame thing to say, you know, like back in the day, like I come from the old school days of YouTube where like there was no live streams. It was, you would create content. Usually it was just people like ordinary people who just want to talk about ideas, share ideas or things that they've done. Vlogging was a big deal. Video essays, not so much. It was more like talks, like just people turn on a camera and just kind of spill their guts about whatever it is that's on their mind. And then other people would do like a reaction video to their video, and in response to whatever it was they were saying, if not, join the conversation in the comment section. So you would have this back and forth. You would have this kind of engagement among creators. It was literally YouTube, like, you guys, like creators interacting with each other. Now YouTube has kind of taken on this more, what I would say, kind of a corporate feel to it, where like everyone is kind of these mini corporate heads. They become these like mini corporations where they kind of run their channels. That's kind of like how they run their channels, is like these mini corporations, where that is, at the end of the day, it's all about the numbers. What kind of numbers can they pull? And to me, I think that's a trap, because at some point, it's a trap in multiple ways. It's a trap because, for one, you're getting sucked into the algorithm game. Number one, you become a fool, a marionette, a little puppet that can be manipulated by the algorithm. Oh, I got to create this type of content because algorithm, right? Now, I'm going to create what I feel like creating. How about that? Okay, does it get views? Does it not get views? I don't give a fuck. At the end of the day, it's what I want to create, first and foremost. It's my interest first. I don't give a crap about validating some fucking algorithm. You can set the parameters. All you technocrats out there, you can set whatever parameters you want on your friggin' algorithms. Okay, I don't care if all my content gets lost in the void. For the handful of select individuals that do come across my content, I want them to say, he was a real one. He was one who actually did what he wanted to do. And he didn't do shit because he was trying to fucking impress anyone. He wasn't doing shit because he was trying to satisfy an algorithm and build a YouTube channel, So he could basically, just in a veiled attempt to just gain profit through ad revenue or some bullshit like that, And trust me, guys, I say this, I come from experience. I've known plenty of people that have had those aspirations of building a YouTube channel and turning it into a career, turning YouTube content creation into a career. And I'll tell you right now, the amount of money you earn from ad revenue and the amount of numbers you have to pull in order to actually make anything substantial from YouTube would make your friggin' head spin. All right. So I'm just saying, don't put on, like, I try to save you the hassle. Don't put that kind of unnecessary pressure on yourself to perform because you want to build a YouTube channel, because you're going to drive yourself crazy. I'll tell you that much. And then on top of that, God forbid you are actually successful at building a YouTube channel, because you know what happens then? Well, now you are under the pressure of your audience to perform. And what did I say at the beginning of this when I started doing this thing? I am not beholden to you just as much as you guys are not beholden to me. Hey, you watch the videos, you watch the videos. You don't, you don't. It's literally no skin off my back. And when the time comes when I feel as though this isn't fun anymore, I'm going to cut the cord and I'm not going to do it anymore. That simple. I won't have to, and I don't feel as though I will have to explain myself or anything like this or that. Why? Because I'm not asking you guys to open your wallet and become subscribers, paid subscriber memberships for my channel. Okay. In other words, I won't feel guilty about ceasing to make content because I'm not asking you guys for handouts. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm literally doing this because I am genuinely interested in what comes out of the underground scene. In other words, I am proactive in the scene. I'm not doing this for the means of generating it, as if I think that this is going to be an actual means of income in any sustainable sense. There you go. And that's the hot topic. I think I've kind of gone off long enough on that one. covered everything I've wanted to cover, gotten everything off my chest that I feel like I needed to, because I have the freedom to do so. See what you guys are saying. Anything? All right. Looks like you guys have had enough of that as well. Let's get into the wrap up. Let's wind things down, shall we? I'll put on a little music, set the mood. All right. Yes. Hey, Nicole from Nicole's Bookish Nook, ladies and gentlemen, was my, in case you missed it, was my special guest last week, during last week's show. So if you missed that, I definitely recommend you go back and check that out. It was fun to finally make your acquaintance. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about? Pitch me something. Pitch me something. Pitch me some ideas, and we'll talk. I think it wasn't at one time. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, at one time you did suggest maybe coming on to discuss, speaking of Hot Topic, you mentioned one time maybe coming on and discussing a little bit about something to do with Trad Pub or something like that. It was the strike. That's what it was. Maybe talking about the strike or something like that, because didn't you say that you were like a member of one of those unions, which actually could be beneficial for some of the viewers to kind of get some perspective from that angle on the whole thing. But if not, I mean, again, usually this show is kind of more towards, the idea of independent publishing, but hey, I'm open to the idea. Thomas says, hey, John. Yes. Yeah, it was the strike. You can have me on about the strike. Oh, you are, in fact, a member of the SAG-AFTRA. Interesting. That could be a little inside info there. That could be interesting. Yeah. What I would do, so this is, okay. I'll get in contact with you. How about that? We'll do it. We'll handle this. This is inside baseball. I'll contact you. I'll probably send you a DM on Twitter. We'll talk. We'll definitely talk. But that is the live stream for this week, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope y'all had some fun. I hope y'all discovered something new. But don't fret, because guess what? I will be back here for you next week, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a good week.
This offended my sensibilities.